Hello and welcome, Guardians. This is your friendly neighborhood Anampig, and I'm here with a theory that is not my own. This comes from the Bungie.net forums and TheMightyTrikon. This is his theory on Dredgen Yor. This theory will be based around proving that Pujari is Dredgen Yor. Everybody knows of Pujari. He is the warlock that first made us aware that perhaps there is a dark side to Guardians and the corruption of the Golden Age. The Pujari position describes the darkness as a force with both physical and moral presence, an actualization of evil. Pujari art depicts the darkness as a great storm, or as a change in conduct, a corruption that emerged from within and poisoned the Golden Age. And let us not forget the infamous Legend the Black Garden Grimoire featuring Pujari. Some key phrases exist in both of these grimoire that are very relevant to the story, but it is all quite relevant. A corruption that emerged from within and poisoned the Golden Age. The red flowers bloom forever. I reached out to pluck it, and it cut me with a thorn. You are a dead thing, made by a dead power in the shape of the dead. All you will ever do is kill. Pujari was a great researcher, and wrote a great amount of text known as the transcripts. You cannot control the enemy. You can control yourself. The victory lies within. Your light drives your armor. Do not speak of yourself as separate from the plate. That marks just pretty cloth. What matters is what it stands for. Consider the word bond. Remember, as you wield this power, that you are not alone. To ignore the city's peril is to sequester oneself from truth. All light has a source, a fire, a filament, a star. Battle is how you seek that origin. Following the events that transpired, the transcripts wouldn't be the only text that Pujari would work on. To rend one's enemies is to see them not as equals, but objects, hollow of spirit and meaning. 13th Understanding, 7th Book of Sorrow. So in order to understand Dredgen Yor, I asked the question, why? What was his motivation? In reading Pujari's grimoire, he talked about corruption, flowers, blooms, thorns, and the darkness. This was all stuff that was on his mind prior to his transition into Dredgen. But we need a scenario as well to put some weight on this theory. The Great Disaster. We know that Dredgen was on the moon at some stage, so let's give him a fire team. Pujari, Weining, Pahanin, Thalor, Jaren Ward, and a sixth member. Trikon thinks Tolan, but I think Ariana 3 is much more likely. Following are a few things that will tie these Guardians together. The Spearhead Type 0 has flavor text that reads, Pujari Y ratio, colloquial, amount of time warlocks spend planning battles versus the time Titans spend winning them. The Malnia Type 0 has flavor text that reads, so I asked Weining, what about the darkness itself? What then? And she says, I'll punch it too. Pahanin errata. Based on a lot of other items mentioning Weining, it looks like she was a very likable and popular Guardian. Yes, we've achieved the objective, and the next, and the... Were we supposed to stop attacking? Weining. To conserve ammo, we've disrupted the enemy command structure with several sharp blows to the skull. Weining. Evade the Cabal counterattack? My friend, they're finally sending us something worth killing. Weining once again. And the last. This burns from a slug rifle. That one's a shock blade. This one? Ah yes. Weining gave me a hug. That one has to be my favorite by far. So what does all this matter about Weining? Because of the following excerpt from the Ghost Fragment Warlock 2. Set during the Great Disaster on the Moon. This card was being narrated by Ariana 3, which is why I feel it's more likely that she was in the fire team than Toland. It showed me the battle. It showed me Weining dead on Crota's blade. It showed me how Crota killed a Guardian with a screaming knife hammered out on his own ghost. We know a lot of awful things occurred on the moon during the Great Disaster. What I suspect happened to this particular fire team is that Pahanin, Jaren, and Thalor deserted the rest of the fire team in their time of need, or in the very least, Pujari blames those three on the death of Weining. But if indeed they were deserted, this would have required Weining, Pujari, and a third unknown member, again possibly Toland, to fend for themselves. We know that Weining was killed by Crota, leaving Pujari and Toland alone. The two remaining go through trials of survival, both learning a great deal about the Hive, but something happened that led them both to madness. Was it at this point that Toland learned how to survive the Hive as per item Emerald Light? They'll believe you are one of their own, and that is the only way. Toland the Shattered. Did this survival have something to do with the Hive Wizard Xior the Unwed? Xior and Yor, they're the same name, excluding the X indicating an X chromosome, making Yor female. I'm joking, but seriously though, they're practically the same. Regardless of what bargains or sacrifices they made, Pujari and Tolan made it out alive. Their bodies intact, their minds not so much. Pujari, back on Earth, no longer the heroic warlock he used to be, takes some time to reflect. And to save me from reading countless grimoire entries, this takes place during Ghost Fragment Thorn. But he wanted revenge. Plain and simple revenge. So first Dredgen would hunt the first guardian to betray him, Jaren Ward. So he takes off to Palamon, which is shown in Ghost Fragment Thorn 2. But simply killing Ward is too simple. Yor was going to take everything he cared about from him. We don't exactly know what happened in Palamon, but we do know that only ashes of the city were left. Jaren attempted to escort a small amount of Palamon survivors to the safety of the city, which is shown in Ghost Fragment Last Word 3. I don't believe that Jaren and company were hunting Dredgen in this grimoire. They weren't hunting, they were fleeing. We could hold our own in a fight, but only the dead went looking for one. A hard truth that cut in direct opposition to our reasons for being so far from anything resembling civilization, much less our safety. Thalor would follow. As said in the description of Mark and Contention, for what is contention if not a heated disagreement? The mighty Thalor was invincible in the Crucible, until Dredgen Yor and his Thorn. And finally to Mars, for Pahanin. Before he took Pahanin's light, Dredgen Yor ruled the Crucible, the notorious Thorn at his side. Why Mars? Super good advice is initially found on Mars, which is Pahanin's gun. Plus, Ghost Fragment Thorn 3. The following line tells me Mars. I will not abandon you. You will, or I will carve the light from your shell and leave the carcass of my first and last friend in the dirt of this dull red world for no one to find. Finally, revenge is revenge, and the end of Dredgen Yor. From the flavor text of the last word, yours, not mine. Renegade Hunter Shin Malphur to Dredgen Yor during the showdown at Dwindler's Ridge.